Calicat the Calicatster. I'm not recording any of the Fall Festival, and I don't think there's a Halloween episode. I don't really think so. I just completed the first book and posting of the Warped Cores, and this is book 2. On to book 2. And I looked through book 2 here and made some changes to what's going to happen in book 2, because there's some characters that got mixed up in the editing process, and don't want to bother printing another copy of the script, because that would just be insane. Let's just print another copy of the script. Yeah, not doing that. So what I did is I made corrections to the script's character generator, which you probably don't care about. And in it, I made some changes to some of the characters in it, pertaining to what they actually do in the story. Apparently some of them from the last book don't appear in this one at all. And some of them were put in the book because they just put their last name in there. Sometimes their first name, not the last name. And sometimes I threw them in there a little early at a time because they were in the other story. Because I just changed the name around and didn't realize, oh, that name doesn't go with that character. Which you don't need to know about necessarily, except that in the one where they find the alien life form on the Mars-like planet, that character should not be Kester Riker, as I said in an earlier post. Can't be. It's a colonel. It's a person in their 30s, their late 30s, who was in that story. It was originally a Dawn's ripping off a character from Pine Hill, put her in the story. Dawn Snape. This is the poor lady. So I just simply changed it to Duick and made it Captain Duick instead. Makes more sense. It's okay. She goes over to the Mars planet. Fine, that makes more sense. Do that. Do the most sensible thing when you're writing a story. Do the most. There's also a random character called Stephen Hertzman, or Hamilton, or something else. I didn't want to introduce a brand new guy, or new person, or something to that. Just make that the Abby Hertzman character who shows up. She's got to be younger, so it's not an older person. So that makes sense. It's just her. John Flamingo, I'm not sure what to do with. He was originally going to be the sort of the Tom Riker, Jay Bonham character. Shouldn't be, though. That character's a little too old to be that character. She's younger. Probably your idea here is just make him one of the Matrix guys from the last story. The last story just happened. It just got downloaded, so it would make sense if he showed up again. He just happens to be there on the bridge. That would make sense. He's just there. He's right there. Well, why not? You have Jake Matthews at 10 bad. That's fine. He's a robot. You have June Dewitt getting more lines. You have Shad Janoli getting some of the lines from Brzezinko, because it wasn't supposed to be Brzezinko. The whole last part, the whole last story, section of the story, which makes the novel a little long, but now we know how long the stories are, and it isn't going to be a little long. Actually, the last one was a little short. It came out under the wire. It came out with 107 pages, and when it was filmed and finished, it was 81 minutes. So this could be under the wire. It could be just under 90 minutes, and that would be great. And so, yeah, that's fine, too. It's not like we don't have to have the alien. I think the alien story, Mars planet thing, belongs on the end just because it's fun. There's also Harvard Starship in there. There's also, other stuff. What's cool is, some of this is, the first story, the first 100 pages or so, are Graham Cracker Chronicle, Season 1, labeled as The Stage is Set, or that kind of thing. Before Starcrackers. It's an early version of that Lost Years Starcracker story that became the Kiwi Fiasco. So there's going to be a little bit of parallels with the Kiwi Fiasco. It's going to be a little bit like Differences, the Next Generation episode that was rejected, and turned into the Arbiter, the Voyager episode. That was rejected. But we ended up doing a 1 hour episode of that on our fan film. That's the Arbiter of Terra. We ended up doing that one. And it was set in 2404, so it's just a little after this time period into the universe. that doesn't open a can of worms because this is a parallel universe and things are happening differently. It doesn't have to be Cap Terra that they go to either. I think it would just be easier if it's some other planet. It's Oasis planet. It's the Anzati planet. Just do that. There's no need to overthink this. Even says it in the story. Yeah, and they have a multi-vector spaceship that is modular that breaks up, Voyager. Like that episode Ship in a Bottle. This story, though, goes back to 1990, so it predates the existence of Star Trek Voyager itself, or Deep Space Nine, by a long, long time. It was part of a game. You could go on the ship, do the game, thing. Star Trek Online became very similar to this later on. But I think they weren't copying me because they could have been copying me because, we knew some people back in the day on Star Trek Online, but they weren't. No, Wesley Borg, they were copying. That they were. But in this case, no. In this case, it's more like they were doing the straight up thing, and they just wanted to have this weird vector ship and spaceship because there's nothing cooler than a dorky starship that's all powerful and goes and blows up a bad guy planet. There's nothing cooler than that. That's all it is. But they were on another channel going on about they got Sussman on there talking about the Archer thing, but it's saying it's not going to happen. The Captain Archer thing is not going to happen. They interviewed him on Trek just now, so I thought I'd mention that. It says it's not happening. But ours is happening. This is going to happen. This is not space politics. Going back to that story we did, ballooned it out from 81 minutes to 87 minutes because it needed some joining continuity issues, and now they're fine. And the joining continuity brings it in. So, cool. It works. Hooks is Franklin Hooks, named after Steve Hooks from Jokes One, who later got his name changed. Should just be the other Matrix guy. Yeah, just make it the other guy. Make it Sassy Mary Crass, and And contrary to rumors on the TMS website boards, there was nobody in the cast that actually died. That's not true. Nobody in the cast died. It was a cat over here, at least. Maybe their cast and then their fan film. Maybe they had a fan film that I don't know about where somebody died, but not here. No, it was a cat. It was my kitty cat. Whatever. That's different. Different person. Maybe they happened to them. I don't know. They have fan films too. So. Anyway, so we have so we have James Benton should Dave Benton. There were some changes and weirdities and oddities you don't worry about so much. Begin it's the 25th today. You can probably hammer out the raw version of this before Halloween next Friday, I would think. You don't have to. It's not on a time stretch or anything. But you probably could do a lot of it next week and have it all in the can. That'd be cool. For movie 2, we're not sure about 3 and 4. Not sure what they're doing. Rozhenko didn't need to be in the other one with the robot. Not the robot. The alien creature that's a sort of a spider biot. It's sort of a Clarkian kind of thing. He didn't need to be that. It was Shad Lawson. I messed up. Shad Lawson. This other character. Should have been a younger guy. Yeah. And when in one of the added scenes, I think it's Emoji Boyd happens to mention I'm the Lawson character. She says, I think I'm going to be the Lawson character. So, it's not an error. Just she thinks she's going to be this Lawson. There is, now, they've changed the Lawson character. So, she's not in it. There's a number of them that just aren't in it. And that's just because I want to do something else with that. Didn't want to rifle through it and go, oh, this doesn't work. Anyway, so on to the fall festival stuff. It's a fatter script than the other one. It has about 50 more pages than the other one, maybe 40 more pages. But the way the dialogue is structured, it ain't going to be that. It's not going to be 2 hours long. It's not going to be 2 hours. There's a lot of exposition we can't film. So. And it's cool that the stage is set and Star Trek and Starcrackers, the board, gets to kind of be redone in this story because we kept the script version of it. That's kind of cool. You can see what the board looked like. The original board. Before the Borg. Well, after the Borg, but then it was made as a spoof. There was an original Borg that goes back to our role-playing game at Pine Hill. And they really weren't robotic zombies so much as zombies from a plague. Yeah, that infected the school and made them randy. Yeah, it wasn't like robots. They were zombies. Which they've kind of fixed in the newer versions. So this whole season has kind of been like creepy zombie episodes with holograms and characters are on some kind of weird, creepy part of the universe where they're doing things. It kind of also said that the Loom don't destroy universes; they merely transfer the information to another universe. So they can, it's kind of interesting because destroying a universe, and they're using the space-time eye things, but the Starfleet people call them Iconian gateways. So that was kind of fun. Also, it's a nod to the Gamel gateways as well. He was thinking the same thing. Same thing. Also, a lot cooler to do that. Duick and more lines. I'm sure the real Duick will approve. As long as nothing weird happens. Well, that did, yeah. But it's not her playing the character. It's Kim Shi playing the character. MC Kim playing the character. But yes, actually it's just Cal Cat doing all the voices. It's really obvious it's just Cal Cat doing all the voices. There's no one being paid. It's funny when they suggest that, during the pandemic, how did you do that without being paid? No. There wasn't anybody being paid. It was just one guy. And though you can tell those Transformer movies are just one guy. Anyway, so yeah. Yeah, so this is a making of. You don't need to save this immediately into the computer. Save it in the next reel. That's fine. I just wanted to chime in that I found the correct Hertzman character, and that it's a Janeway, not the other one, the Kira one. Kira Nerys one. It should be a Janeway, and then it should match up with the other one. It doesn't have to. The timelines are different, but it is. It's her. All of the footage with the alleged Tipper shot character was changed to Duick. That creates a scene where she's talking to herself in the very beginning, like right after the teaser. She gets a call from Tipper Shot, who talks to her, the captain, and she's talking to herself. Just change that character to that of the Genoli lady from the last movie. Change it to the Genoli lady, so it's going to be the Dr. Crusher Borg talking to her. It's great. That fixes that. But later on, the Mars planet, it's not the Dr. Crusher lady. It's Duick. So that makes more sense. That would be her. It's not Tipper Shot, Tipper Riker. It never was supposed to be. It's more of a Sneed character. Unless you want that to be... No, I'm not changing that. No, it's better as her. It could be... I was going to say, could it be this other... No, it can't be Genoli. It wouldn't make sense. It's not. The character needs to be this other person. Yeah. Also, also changing the name to story to the mission to Key Terra. Basically says it's not kept Terra. Gets rid of a can of worms by doing that. Just a different planet, different solar system. This is sort of a system in between the other two systems. It's in between. So don't worry about that. And so that is on the 28th of October. Production. We're not rushing to try and finish this in the next 4 days to have it out by Halloween. That was the first one. This is book 2. This is barely, the teaser is just done. And there's no reason to rush anything. It's not on a time crunch at all. And the other characters are behaving as they should. The Mako character is behaving as they should. Originally, Probably this was an early Starcrackers. And it was originally Mo Martinez. Was another Pine Hill person. But it was changed to Mako. Because another Pine just stole a name. It wasn't really them. Just stole a name. And originally the character, the Colonel character, was supposed to be Chris or Libby from Pine Hill. Originally, going back to the OG story. It can't be either of them. It makes more sense as Duick. It just does. So it's Pestelli was race swapped and species swapped into a Vulcan, similar to Tuvok. Just because it made more sense to not having be literally Henry Brister come back to be in the story, because it's not him, obviously. So it's not one of Tuvok's sons or something, although we joked about that. It's not. It's just a Tuvok-looking character, because they only made a certain amount of characters, and there's only, Anyway, so yeah, there is the behind the scenes. Making of. I was looking at the dailies. Let's do this again. I know you did it like 8 times, but it didn't work. So we're going to do that again. So yeah. So the reason I reshot this other part of this other page again here is because I'm pretty sure that she is got a camera shadow in front of her in the other footage. So we're redoing back to where she actually comes in, basically. I think the pay scale line was fine, part about the pay scale, but that part was not. Which takes us back to where she is. Okay. And that line that we keep trying to do over and over, but really got it. Making of, that is the end of that scene. It's probably the end of the day's shoot. That is where they have put the crew down on the planet. Everybody else is not on the planet. So we're going to go down to the planet. Planet Hill set is not built, so we're going to stop for the evening. It's on night. Yeah, on the day before Halloween. Yeah. Making of, again. There's a scene here where it appears our heroes have somehow wandered off the bridge, only to go talk about Dewmelon, and then come back. And then they go and they meet Shiloon, who also comes in and comes back. But then they jump back to the ship as we close the scene. I think that all of this should take place on the bridge, because that would make more sense. Not sure how that would work, but I think it would make more sense. Because we're literally still in this scene in terms of the story. Why would they walk off the bridge, go somewhere else, talk, and then come back? That doesn't make sense. Okay, making of, that last bit was changed slightly from the dialogue, because the dialogue was old and strange, and it made it more of a connection to the other movie, the Shiloon character. Even though I don't think it's the same guy. There didn't need to be a connection, and there isn't really if it's not the same guy. It's a Shiloon character, or Charlie character. If that was the same guy from the other movie, it doesn't matter, really. It's just another, collection. Yeah, so the tame line didn't really work. So here's the other one here. It's only symbolically connected. It's not supposed to be the same guy. Here is the Tipper Riker scene. That's not her. She's not in the story. It should be someone else. So I'm going to make her this other person over here, and later on, the Mars lady is either her or Duick. It's probably actually her and not Duick in the Mars part. It's probably her on the Mars planet, and not her. So it's probably her. Even though you said Duick throughout the script, you can just, over the other one, you can just say it's her instead. Because that makes a little more sense that it's the other Janoli. And not her. It just makes more sense. And no, they're not related to this guy. Anyway, so yeah. Speaking of, and also note that the militaristic story is written more realistically than Strange New Worlds. They actually have command structure that doesn't allow for them to be whiny little cadet brats They wouldn't be. They'd be following orders. It's kind of funny. Anyway, so this next scene is going to be allegedly them back on the bridge, but no. I think it's punchier if Hertzman and, let's see, it's probably just Hertzman. Hertzman shows up in here in this scene because it's only like a brief little thing. Show them around. So Hertzman and the other guy show up, and the captain orders the first officer to show the other officers around. Yeah. Okay, making of. This was going to be a short shoot on Saturday night for the time change, and all this is just I did a little bit. Yeah, up to page 37. So we finished a scene and a half. I don't want to bother going to the end of this other scene because it requires back and forth on the ship, different shots. So I'm not going to do that. And that's it. Saturday, November 1st. Okay, daylight savings time happened a couple days ago, so time's all messed up. But yeah, real quick before dinner, this was, episode, this is the stage is set. It was Graham Cracker Chronicles, the movie. It was 1992 or so. It was sort of a rewrite of an earlier thing. That was a rewrite of an earlier thing. It was like a build your own adventure. And in the idea of a modular ship that separates into little ships is a Transformers Gestalt, more so than the Prometheus and Voyager, because this story was written in 92 or 93. Voyager did not exist yet. The story goes back to 92, 93. Deep Space Nine had just come out. There's no Voyager yet. So this story predates that. The only thing the only possibility is they were thinking on the same wavelength that it would be. But the modular ship element is something from Canary Space, or Distant Cousins at the time. Distant Cousins, Distant Planets. We had modular ships with different tactical abilities, which would make sense. You're in space. Why would you? I mean, current spaceships are built. Some space stations are built like that. So yeah, why wouldn't they have something like that back then? The 90s. Oh yeah, modular spaceship. So it's not the Prometheus, but it is interesting that there's a parallel there. But no, in this case, it's yet another example of Star Trek imitating us many years later. So yes. And yeah, it was rewritten later on, but not the multi-vector ship with the different parts was always part of the original. So that was always part of the script. It's this big, giant space-like ship. Oh, so there you know. Nothing else to nothing else behind the scenes. Making of. We want to do the last 3 lines of the script on this page because he didn't quite do them the way they actually were. Well, let's do that. And then go on. Oh, this page, page 53. Other making of. It probably doesn't matter to the story necessarily, to the characters as you know them necessarily, because again, this is a adaptation of the novel, of the short story collection. The character of David Benton or other Benton or James Benton that shows up in here is a screw up in the story. He's not, because he was something else before he was changed to Benton. It screws it up, makes him one of the other chief engineers, and there doesn't need to be another guy representing the same engineer. There's no reason there would be 2 of those. I think there's only 2 because this is clearly an early 90s story during the Starcrackers era. Mark's Cards didn't even want to have a doctor and a chief engineer. So they said, what if there's several doctors and several chief engineers? Yeah, so it isn't just on him. It's on the early story. But you've got Allison Chi. You've got, who was changed to Locarno. Just use her. It's the easiest thing to do. Just use her. And that Matrix guy. Don't have another Benton in this at all. So that guy that has 16 lines in here is not in it at all. He isn't. In fact, half of those lines are someone responding to him or talking to him. So yeah, he doesn't need to be in there. So yeah, it's just Locarno, lady. Yeah, just note that just a curiosity of the changing of an adaptation of a story. And also supposed to be a scene when the shuttle bay, and then they cut to the battle bridge where he's talking to the engineers. Visually, it's more interesting to have it be the shuttle bay and the engineers instead of just them on a screen talking to him, because that's not interesting. It'd be like a guy typing at a keyboard. It's not interesting. So let's do this. Break the fourth wall right here. I want to break the protocol right here. Making of. Okay, in the original script, this was a scene where they were talking over a view screen, and they were on a shuttlecraft. It is more interesting to have them actually in the shuttle bay, talking to each other instead of over a screen. However, that negates two of the lines here about contacting the shuttle. That's what's going on. Just thought I'd note that. Then I'm going to get to... Really, I think Mako should show up in the shuttle bay right here. Not on the ship. He's gonna do it, but yeah. So I'm going to change that. Have him show up in the shuttle bay. After Hawkman. So, they're relinking the ship that's already been linked up in the other dialogue. So note that in this making of that line no longer should exist. That they're just referring to the shuttle having arrived. That does kill a line from the Ames Bullner, but he doesn't have to say anything here, and it would be awkward if he was suddenly in the scene, because he's not in the other scenes until he takes the bridge and goes to talk to the other guy. Yeah, that's not what's going on. So yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna reshoot that little dialogue there. I want to take this out of the shot. It's awkward. It's throwing him off. It shouldn't be there. Something else should be there. Anything else other than that. There. It's a little better, I guess. Hold on. Making of. So in the story, there's an appearance by Alex Roshenko coming up. And then later on, about roughly 30 pages later, there's another appearance by him and Flip Dill and the others who get together in the endurance after the major 30 pages are over. The whole episode, I believe, ends on 97, somewhere near the end of all of this, but before 100. So this is it, yeah. And then there's 50 more pages of another episode tacked on it, and we need it because it's actually the printing is larger than we thought, so it's not going to be over 90 minutes. So we do need it, judging by the tracking on this. So yeah, it's not going to be longer. Just going to be a little longer than the other one, not by any substantial margin. And the other one was a little short. So yeah. But those scenes that they add to it, like Roshenko and the two scenes there, seem to be part of the story, but they're like sort of asides that are in this. Like in the other, we put asides in the other story to make it like this story, and also to fill in like plot holes. But here they're in it for a reason, even more so. But it seems like they're still plot holes, but they're not. It's actually plot points or asides. They're meant to be there just to get to know the other characters. I take it what's happening here is that there were two of this guy, Matrix, here at the end, and this is the other one. There's the shapeshifter, synth guy. There's two of them. That doesn't come out in the story necessarily, but that's kind of what's going on. Yeah. But yeah, and that would have been the Benton character, quote unquote. But he shouldn't have been in there. It should have been Matrix. And it shouldn't have been Chi either. It shouldn't have been, I don't know. It should have been him. Yeah. Which adds some more depth to his character. So, yeah. Let's see. So, I went ahead and looked over that other scene. What's going on there, the only way that this visually makes any sense, is that Ackman, after realizing the ship has been taken, contacts Mariner, not Sean Hayes, or Emoji. Wouldn't make sense for him to contact Emoji, because Sean Hayes, because The name was just changed in the story without thinking who the character is. So it was just changed. And, it should be, emoji, because that makes sense. Or it should be Hayes, because that makes sense. But there was a Colonel Hayes in the story originally. And this Colonel Hayes person is the one who, what's-his-face, talks to. So in order for this aside to work, the aside has to double back to just after they discover, Ackman has discovered that the Matrix has been injured. And it should be after that. And the reason he contacts, let's connect those scenes so they're not on the planet. He jumps to the planet, that makes no sense. He contacts them from his base here. And when he does, they respond to him. So it is kind of a screen thing, but they're not on the ship because So it's got to be a screen thing in this case because they're not physically there with him. They can't be. And it would be the other Colonel lady. It would be it would be Mariner. That's who it would be, and there wouldn't be 5 others. It would just be Mariner. So he contacts his contacts basically. Then it works. Yeah. Making of. I was just noting that I wrote on ahead here that Benton shows up again, even though he shouldn't be. The Dr. Benton character is not in this story, but then another Dr. Benton shows up. And then interrupts the other guy. No, that should just be the other Matrix guy. It really should, because there's no reason for that dynamic going on. Because then James Benton is a computer genius. I think what was going on is you just chose a name to connect this short story to the other ones in the future without thinking, it doesn't really connect them. Now this little aside works because I restructured it so instead of it being the Sean character, it's the Mariner. And that makes it work as an aside, and then he's contacting the council, and they obviously have a ship nearby that they're going to try to interfere with the plan here. But now it makes sense. Now it's like, okay. But to have the other guy show up is a little weird. So making of. Note that the last line wasn't actually there, so I had him say something. I'm going to sign off because otherwise it doesn't make sense. The next scene will be them with the Benton character. It's not supposed to be Benton. It's Matrix. Simply make it Matrix, and he just goes to meet with the engineering team. That's the easiest thing to do there. Just he meets with the engineering guy. Yeah, it's not the Benton hacker guy from later, because it can't be. Introducing him now would be like, what? 60 pages into it, he's just suddenly there. No, it's just the other guy. No, it's the other dude. He has technology, engineer. So making of end scene 6. Is that 7? It's scene 6. End scene 6. 7 is next. Anyway, so that was her beautiful plan there. And the asides actually work in this story. Then here's the scene 7. We have Ron. So we can't have... the reason that we can't have the other guy is Hooks is the other guy. They have to be... be the other guy. That's why we can't use him. Okay. In the other scene. There's another guy that disappeared from the story. Well, he has to be Hooks in the next scene. Because Hooks is on the other ship. So, Hooks is not... It's not Hooks. It's the other guy. No. It's Free Fall. Okay, 67 to 97. 30 pages today. So we have... this is the end of this second unit thing here. And that's what's done. And, so there's 50 pages of the story left, but this is it may seem like it's longer than the other script, but it isn't. It's probably about the same, because the 2 extra scenes are actually in the movie, and they're not extra scenes in this case. They're not asides. They're the courtroom and the aside thing. Done the space courtroom thing, and that's the way you do it. You just have it be pieces of the courtroom scene, and then back and forth. It's a hearing more than a courtroom scene. So yeah, you have that. Yeah, for mom and dad's love of courtroom scenes. There's a courtroom scene. Yeah, it's what became Judgments and Starcrackers and Prospectors. It's that story. It's that version of that story, the Arbiter, more than the other version of the Arbiter. Because in the original, the Voyager script, Arbiter, it was more of a. It was more. There was no defecting officer on the Voyager, so that was different. This is an earlier version, and that earlier version was turned into the Judgments. It's a longer, earlier version. It was like 100 pages. So yeah, it was a two-parter. Would have been a two-parter. Yeah, so there you go. And then the next one is the Yanzadi Mars planet thing, and I set up her being the officer instead of Tipper, and so she can be the Mars lady. Yeah, with the lady. And Rozhenko is no longer in the story. He has gone off to no longer in the story. That's his last scene right there. First making of all-day shoot. Yeah, we've got Shiloon walking onto the bridge here. I mean, he could be there, but I think he's only there for him to say that line that's distasteful. He probably shouldn't be on the bridge, unless there's... I mean, he doesn't add anything unless he does a little spiel, and I don't think he does. I think it's just Pace Tilly and the other guy arguing with each other. And then back to the ship, and then back to the attack section. Yeah. I don't know why he's there, other than, oh, we need Azeroth on the bridge. Let's put him in there. What? Okay. Going to go on to scene 8, and I'm going to have, instead of this being on a view screen, because that doesn't make sense, Gremlin's there too. I think it's meant to be in a room. So. That's a view screen thing. Yeah, so this is going to be a meeting in the meeting room. There is a little scene right here with the making of. The scene right here is going to be supposed to be Benton, but because you kind of eliminated James Benton and made him Matrix the Doctor, it would make no sense that she's asking him to do this, because he's sleuthy on the other ship thing. And it makes no sense as to who she is to do this guy. I'm not saying lose the scene. I'm saying it needs to be a different person. I think it probably should be either Mariner or Rozhenko, this scene, just to have continuity with the other stuff later, and they're appearing later on in this very script, and then never again. Yeah, it's not supposed to be him or her in the other story either. Apparently, also part of this used to be, also was changed into the Judgments version of Prospectors, the third, because it's mentioned in there, and that was Thompson who was turned evil in the story, in that episode. But that also was the Starcracker story originally. That doesn't matter so much, as it's interesting to note that is that it's been revised several times, and we've done this over and over again. But yeah, it is different than the Arbiter, and it is different than Differences. It is different than the other one, enough that it's not clearly the same story anymore. It just has a similar plot, a sort of double cross, triple cross in the ship thing, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm gonna pull in. I think I want to pull in Rozhenko right there, or maybe Mariner. Maybe Mariner makes more sense. Mariner and her served on the same ship, so it'll be Mariner. Yeah, that probably makes more sense. So we'll get her. Okay, second unit, brief making of the camera. Note that in the script, here calls for Locarno to be among the crew of Mako's ship. She wouldn't be. It has to be this other guy. That's it, and also. That's the first officer, and yeah, and they go down to the planet. This scene is you literally just met the other guy. So I know these were short stories. I know these were put together as sort of a role playing game RPG, and it was a game. That previous one was a Mako episode, that little short one. This is two, a little bit. So yeah, it has a little bit of that. But it's also Sandoval and Clemens Rogue and all that other games that it was before they added Spanish names. So they were not I don't think Mark's card's even intended for him to be Spanish. I think this name sounds cool. I'm going to use it. So here we go. Then. Speaking of, we've done a whole lot today. We've done a whole lot. We have a little bit of the other chapter here. It's John Knight. We have a little bit of this one and the other one tomorrow on Friday. Going to stop for the evening and then go on Friday. So yeah, second unit, and there it is. And Barboda and all that. Yeah. The time change, it feels like it's later. It's not. It's only 4:35. Let's do a little more. Do a little more. Yeah. Okay, I want to hammer this out in the last half hour before John arrives. It's actually very little. It's like 3 pages. This scene where one of them assumes the form of the Data, like Android, starts talking through him. Makes no sense that he'd suddenly be there because he wasn't among the crew that pirates that went down to the planet. So how did he get there? That makes no sense. You're literally a moment, like 3 minutes from the end of the story. Why would the alien do that? So just have it be the alien and have them go, something's wrong, and then jump to, oh, the pirates are right over there. They're yeah. Because then it makes more sense. So yeah, and the whole thing about him being like the robot having like a childhood and stuff, all you need is that one line. It doesn't go anywhere other than they kind of know what's going on. Yeah, they're just not breaking the fourth wall. So yeah, yeah, let's do that. I'm going to cut in here and say, okay, what's going on is the ending of this becomes Last Boy Generation. And I didn't want to do that because it makes no sense, and it's Elio. And Disney already did. So, yeah. Shad is Elio, yes. Well, not really, but it's kind of similar, and that was just a lot of exposition that you don't need 3 minutes from the end of your story. So, it's not in there anymore. So, the alien basically says the lines the other one did, and then Mako got away, apparently, again. So, yeah. That is the end of the movie. Fucking did it. Fucking did it. Wow. Okay. Yeah. There's part 2. In the can. And yeah, I changed the last 5 minutes into a slightly tighter story because they were introducing 2 new characters. They didn't need to. Yeah. So now it works. All right. This is Calcats, the Calcatster. And this is still making of the second chapter of Warp Core. Yeah, so there have been a lot of changes behind the scenes, set thing. It looks like we're just going to do 3 of these, and we're doing a part 3. But part 3 will be a little longer because you haven't gone through the script and stuff like that. Yeah, 1 or 2 of those stories doesn't work. So, yeah, part 3. So it'll kind of be like how in the Starcracker story we included a little bit from the second book. We will include the California Divided, rewritten. It's rewritten. It's Divided Planet or Colony or whatever. That's what it's actually, Divided Colony in the rewrite. But in the original Build Your Own Adventure game, it was California. Yeah, shocking Mad Max type of story. Not so shocking nowadays, but shocking in the story. It's essentially the main characters fight, and there's like a sort of an action story, and then there's another one. I don't know how we're gonna do that, for one thing, so having gone through this second one, in realizing how it's structured, it comes out just about 90 minutes, and that's perfect. The other one is going to come out under 90 minutes because of the way it's structured, and so it's going to need a little bit of the next act, which will make the other act shorter. But yeah, I think 1 or 2 of those short stories is probably not going to be done. To go through that short story thing and see whether, because they're not really connected, as you can tell with part 2 here, that it's not really. they're not really connected. The first 87, 90 minutes is a connected story, and then there's like 2 short stories on the end. It was a formerly Harvard Starship and Oasis in the Image of the Earth, which were borrowing from little sci-fi tropes of the 80s and 90s, but not necessarily cribbing from anyone particular. The Mars Planet story it was a Mars story, but they're making it Mars habitable, but discovering they'd killed alien life. A very Star Trek type of story. The other one where they find the Zlep alien was Harvard Starship. It wasn't originally a Mako story. It was just a guy on a planet discovers an alien ship, which is why he's a little out of place. But I think it works in the story because you made it work, because you made it like he's going to make a deal with the alien at the end. So you're like, oh, okay, maybe he's still evil. He's going to make a deal with me. And it said he's roguish. Yeah, as the captain said earlier on in the story, he's not completely bad. He's just a rogue, but she knows better. She sees his heart, I guess. Yeah, and having this new character Duick from this season go to the Warp Core universe as this other Duick does keep her out of the other timeline, effectively. So does that mean that the future timeline they encountered where things are messed up when they went into that other timeline in part 2 here, is that the divided colony from the end? Yes it is. It's that. Yes. That's not even a spoiler. That's what they're going to be. A lot of the characters that would be in part 3 like have cameos in one story and then they're never mentioned again like this one. I solved that in this one by having the last 30 minutes of characters where there were goofy names and whatnot, have them just be the other ones and they're just there, because that makes sense. Even though, yeah, there was a character who was supposed to be the congressman. I know the Barboda lady is confusing, but maybe not, because it's not really Janoli, it's Barboda. She's Janoli earlier. It's supposed to be a different person, but it's totally the same person when she appears. So you're like, oh, is it another clone or something? Yes, it's a clone. Yeah. It's not actually Janoli. It's Barboda. Yeah. It's not the same character. It's just the figurine playing the same person. Also, the character of Hooks no longer exists. It's now just one of the other Matrix guys. That makes sense. He didn't have much to do anyway. He's the other Matrix guy. There's a Hamilton that didn't need to be in there. That's the other Matrix guy. There's a Tub Tennessee who is just Reek instead. Because yeah, you're already doing that joke. So yeah, he's just Reek again. Because that makes sense. If you're making a movie version of it, it goes out there. Also, these are motion comics, by the way. That's what they would call these, Go Motion comics, which is why there isn't much movement. There doesn't have to be. It's the dialogue. That carries the story. These are not. There are some adventure scenes, yes, but they're sort of spoofing the feel of the original Star Trek, which didn't have like space battles every 10 minutes. That stuff was expensive back then. You couldn't do that. We can't do that here either. We can't literally blow a figure apart and have it go on the stage and they can't really decapitate a figure and have him come out on the stage. It's not feasible. The Starship Legacy series will come to an end in December with a season finale that hasn't been written yet after these stories, and wrap up the whole arc so there will be a finale. We won't do it stupid. We won't do it like Enterprise with the regular people in the wrong place. We won't do it like the very special ending either. And it'll be the premise for that we've kind of been doing the whole time. Really, I'm thinking they're going to go onto a planet where there's no main central villain, ecological problem is going on, and they got to go solve it on the planet. And no central Q thing or anything like that. Just they're going to the planet, solve the mystery of what's on the planet. It might even involve the Orion Gorn people, maybe. We'll see. I don't really have any Gorns, so it may involve the classic people returning, the three surviving members of Kirk and Chekhov and Sulu. Those actors are still alive as action figures. It might involve that. We'll see. In Picard, of course, Data. Yeah. Picard's now an android, though. It's kind of weird. But yeah. So yeah. So the second movie, that was hairy to put together, is the second darker chapter, and the third one is to wrap things up. I think the third one should wrap things up. I think it should be a trilogy. It'll just be a little long. It'll be probably 2 hours instead of 90 minutes. Because really, yeah, it's not that we don't like it. It's cool. It's cool and everything. It's just that it's getting convoluted toward the end there, and with the short stories trying to fit characters in that, again, aren't really. There's a character called Tipper Riker that was supposed to. I know it's in the credits. That was supposed to be the Mars lady, but I had to change that because it had to be Mariner instead, because it made more sense that it was Sassy Geneva or Mariner instead. It had to be because she's been there. She was there earlier. She's in the asides in the story. It had to be her, and it had to be Locarno, not Locarno. Well, it looks like Locarno. It had to be Duick and Mariner to find the aliens on the planet in the last 15 minutes. It was only 15 minutes. And then they note the cliffhanger in the story. It's kind of a cliffhanger that Mako has escaped with the aliens. He took off, and he has the device, so he can do the transform device. Actually, it works in the story because they always had one on the ship. Because in the opening scene, it actually makes sense. Because the opening scenes, and it's in the story. I didn't add anything to the story. Of the first act there, they established that, and this is the middle of book 1 of Space Time Eye, incidentally. The whole thing has been the middle of book 1, and the next is the end of book 1. And they were only shuffled into 2 books because that's the way I did it, because they're 500 pages each or something. And really, it's one big long book, because it's all the short story collection from Brown Press Universal. That's what it is. Based on those Build Your Own Adventure Apple games that we did, and never published. They weren't published back then, and now they're published. And now they're in Brown Press Universal in 1996, and they went from that, which was only published in house, and then they went on to be published on Amazon as Space Time Eye, parts 1 and 2, books 1 and 2 of all those short stories, and there's. So basically, the first one was 1 episode with some stuff added onto it, and this one was 4 episodes, but 4 episodes. Yeah, there's like 4, including the Sage's Set, which was a early pre-version of Differences, because they kept referencing it in there, which was a Next Generation script, and that story was rewritten, and then parts of it became Fearful Symmetry, and parts of it became The Arbiter, to a Deep Space Nine episode and a Voyager episode. So it's like the proto version of that. You can tell who was who. Might as well reveal that the Mako character was not Mako originally. He was Raxler, and it was young Clark who was Pistelli. Young Devin Clark, Stephen Clark, stolen the teacher's name. It wasn't him, but they stole the name. And it was Clark Star. It was an origin story for the Academy version of Clark, and the girl with Clark was Sarah Ginoli, basically. So yeah, there couldn't be 2 Sarah Ginolis, so we had to make it Harry Hertzman instead. It's Hertzman instead, and it's Pastelli instead, because you couldn't really, it wasn't really young Clark anymore. It was something else. The names were changed in the storybook form to be other people. Of these stories, there's a later one which is coming out later on in probably part 3 here, where we have a sort of a flaky Ron Sandoval type of character. Sandoval the Hunted was also part of Harvard Starship story, so it is him. It's supposed to be him. Sandoval was not. It was just a name stolen by stole a neighbor's name, Martha's friend Sandoval, and making fun of them. And it was my oldest nephew David and I were making fun of him. So we put him in this alien story where there was the space aliens are trying to hunt him. He's a hunter. They're hunting him because he's got a bounty on his head. Just like those ideas of a prison bounty on his head kind of thing. But it was perfect for Mako, just Marcus Card's John Yeager Mako character, which he never published either. The Mako story. So this character sort of became, in this version, Mako. Even though in the stories, Space Time Eye, if you find them, it's not called that, it's called Sandoval. Yeah, so we made him Mako. He's actually Sandoval. So yeah, that's the history of that. And yeah, there's nothing more to really reveal about yeah, so the other ones, the judge lady was not directly a reference to the judge being almost the same guy at the end of the Baby Driver movie from 2017, because this story, again, was written way back in the 90s, long before that movie ever happened. So I was confused, and there were some other people that were confused at the end of a movie called Baby Driver, where Kevin Spacey is killed at the end of the movie, and then there's a judge that looks just like him, who is presiding over the case of the guy that he hired to do the bank robberies in the movie. Yeah, it's like yeah, that would be a conflict of interest. And it was like, what, is that guy the same guy? I said, no, it's just another old guy they cast to be the judge. It's one the same guy. That'd be a twist, but I think a lot of people thought it was, and they thought the movie was really cool because of the twist where the judge is the bad guy at the end. It's like, no, that wasn't him. It's supposed to be somebody else. No, the judge is the bad guy. That'd be a good twist. So in this version, because it reminded me of this earlier story. Now you might go on the Amazon site and say, "Oh, the Space Time Eye came out in 2020, so you knew about Baby Driver." We did not rewrite for release on. Yeah, we didn't rip off Baby Driver. What happened is couldn't have. The story was written in 1995 or 96, somewhere around there. We're not saying they copied us. We're saying it reminded, doing the interview of Baby Driver, the movie. It reminded us of, the movie reminded us of this short story that we wrote, because in the short story, the turncoat behind the scenes pulling the strings is Janoli Barboda and her friend who looks like the other person. Their names were changed, but Barboda and Drumlin from the original, those names aren't changed. They were actually turncoats, and they're actually working for the bad guys at the end of the story. It was revealed that their plan all along was to pull them off the ship so that they would be on this planet and meet the aliens. Maybe they wanted some other thing to happen. Maybe they wanted Mako to escape again. That's kind of the implication, but an ending there that you have Mako escape. So yeah, in the same way, the Janoli lady, the judge lady, looks like the other lady. See, that's where it's going. And it looks like, but it's not the other lady. Barboda and Janoli are two different ladies. It's just they look a lot alike. In this, it's a parallel with this character of the Enola Gay, the atomic bombshell lady that keeps appearing. The ship, the drag queen lady that wants to blow up the universe. There's a bunch of her too. So yeah, there's like space clones and things going on. And then you have Matrix 1 and 2, who were actually originally Flores 1 and 2, who are in the story. So Thing 1 and Thing 2. There's a lot of Mexican names, but I think I was just trying to be inclusive and include everybody. I wasn't trying to make them mean or good or either way. They're just there because I thought that would be cool. I think, though, that some of them were inspired by Evergreen people from the 90s and San Jose State people. They probably shouldn't use their last name. So those ones that I recognized, I was like, let's change that. We don't want to reference this guy or that guy. The Elysian lady listed in the credits is supposed to be the Bombshell. Yeah, she's called Bombshell. The premise of the stage is set 1991, the oldest story. That's actually the oldest one. The second stage is set. It's a version of Grandfather Chronicles. It was also kind of riffing on the Best of Both Worlds with the Borg. Yes, it was. But done before the Best of Both Worlds Part 2. So he basically does all of his things. He's going to fire on the bad guys and everything. And it hadn't happened yet. It was 1990. It was actually 1990. It was before the summer ended. And it was also pieces of another story, Yesterday Became Tomorrow, which we adapted already. And a bunch of those other stories we adapted already. So elements of that come in. It's my own stuff. But yeah, I was thinking of Best of Both Worlds with the Mako character being like Riker. He's Raxler, basically. A young Raxler. Doing naughty things. Yeah. Blowing up ships and stuff. Ready for fire. It was actually referenced. The storybook version was referenced in the bloopers of the and outtakes of Starcrackers, because we filmed some of this story. The board story was filmed in 1990 while doing Starcracker. So some of that is used as footage in the Starcracker movie because we didn't have more Carey. That was his name, Jen Carey. We didn't have the more of him, so we just used footage from the board episode, which didn't really work because he was wearing shirts from promoting a martial arts school in the larger now, and it would have been weird to like promote this martial arts school. It's written on his shirt. I don't know why I did Junks on. I don't know why I did that back in the 90s, but I did, and you could. It's promoting a school. Why is he doing that? So there's like references to that in there, Mako and the training school and all that. There's references to that other story. So it's very much a Starcrackers crossover with Canary Space in this story. Even though space-time kind of isn't, it's meant to be a crossover with Canary Space. And instead of that, it's a crossover with Legacy, because that makes more sense, because we're currently in Legacy. And it's a different timeline than the one that jumped ahead with the Q lady, Amanda Q jumped ahead. It's a different timeline, so we're just dealing with this other timeline, little splinter timeline that's going on. And the idea is that the Loom, there's bad guy Loom. I've expanded on the lore of the Loom from Prodigy, and there are bad guy ones and good guy ones, and apparently, yeah, they're on the planet. Originally, also the original story was a premise by the character who played the Libyan herself, by Libby McClanahan. Who there was Chris and Libby from Pine Hill, and we called her the Libyan because Libby the last name, right? So, but by 1990, after I was on an Evergreen, I was by the summer of 1990 Evergreen, and then a little afterward, they were still at Pine Hill because they were a little younger. They were Mark Scar's age, so we came back, and her premise for a story was, let's have a captain who can't go down to a planet because the sun affects her. She's very pale. Originally it was a sun disease. I decided to throw that in there, but no, she's just very pale. She wasn't diseased. She was just pale. Very pale. And she was very pale. The irony is that her character in this story is Mariner. She's completely race swapped for a black girl. Which is a nod to her being, which is two nods actually. There's a lot of weird nods in there. It would be awesome to meet the Lower Decks people, because even it's a little bit of a tangent. He based Mike McMahon based Mariner on his sister, and he's I think he's Asian and half Asian and half Irish or something, Irish McMahon. Yeah, so yeah, he's like half and half. His sister's half and half. She's not black, but in the stories, she's a black girl. At 2380s, and so Mariner has to be, if she appears in this one as an action figure, it's a new Uhura action figure. It's been painted. Is black, but she's supposed to be one of the Elijans as well. So she's one of the people of Libby and Chris. It ties back to Libby and Chris. She's also loosely the sassy, outgoing, gregarious character of Talisman, the Sandra Gatoff character, and her mother, being the captain of a ship, would be Freeman, and she'd be Sandra. Freeman would be, but they were Gatoff. They were Russian, German, and Russian, and so mostly German, and well, half German, because Gatoff is a Russian name. German Russians. That's possible. Gatoff would be back in the day, and the mother was at the Jung Swan, and the daughter's at the Jung Swan. So McMahon was not aware of our stuff, but it's weird that like somehow he's deliberately contradicting it by throwing these characters in there that are a swerve. Like, I'm aware of this guy's fan film. I'm even going to reference it at the end of season 4, where we're going to make it impossible for Locarno to be in your fan film 20 years later. Huh. Yeah. But no, there's a way out of that. As he said, we went over that. Mariner could not have met Cadet Wesley Crusher as an adult. Back in Mariner, if it was actually the 80s, she's the same age as Tawny Newsom, the actress. She's in her early 40s. She's 42. She would have been 10 when Wesley Crusher entered it was in the Academy. She couldn't have met Nick Locarno, nor would he have hung out with her. So that whole scenario, that whole season 4 episode of Lower Decks never happened. They couldn't have. They couldn't have met. They could have met later when it could have been later. It would have been like, well, okay, she met him later. But not at the Academy. That scene with her and Cito, nope, didn't happen. Couldn't have. She was 8 or 10 when that scene happened. But yes. So we have Mariner, who's basically an Elysian, therefore she's part of the Libyan group, clique, whatever. There was a Pine Hill student, Marlisha Walker, who would be one of them. She'd be in there, Pine Hill student back in the day. She'd be Mariner, basically. So yeah, and they would have been at the Academy together. They would have been. In the 90s, they would have been in the Academy. They would have met Wesley Crusher. By 1992, they would have met by season 5 of TNG. They would have been 18, and they would have met Wesley Crusher and the crew and stuff. Yeah, they would have. So the Libyan, the Elysian would have met Wesley. Because also, even though they were like under, because they were freshmen, as well as Mark Scars was a freshman when I was a senior in high school. So they would have met. Right, the Academy is like college, so they would have met eventually. No, so anyway, the other premise is that, and you have. So I don't mind that it's race swapped, gender swapped, and some of the characters are turned around, because the Barboda character is also the Janoli character. So it's like, they don't reveal that they're twin sisters at any point or anything like that. It's just that it makes sense that she's going by this other name. So it's less a clone and more, that's her spy name. That's her nom de plume. Yes, her nom de plume. that's her pen name. One of her pen names. She's like a secret double agent, triple agent. That's what they make her. Everybody's a triple agent in this. It's actually a cooler version of what Section 31 should have looked like in Deep Space Nine, where they're not coming out and saying, we're Section 31 with a badge on, like in Discovery, which made no sense, but rather they're just a clandestine group behind the scenes of this militaristic colony, system of colony planets that are relatively close to each other, and they are doing sneaky subterfuge type of Romulan things. Kind of Romulan things, yeah. And they're the Cold War kind of 90s characters, late Cold War kind of stuff. There's a little bit of references to Star Trek 6 in some of this later stuff. A little bit of references. Only because the subterfuge and stuff like that. Well, yeah, he's not meant to be a Mako character, although he kind of is. Mark Scard's approved of having a Mako. In the story, the Sandoval character was kind of a Mako anyways. It's kind of an archetype. This is the bad boy rebel guy, of which Nathan Char in the Canary space had to be less of a sort of a broken Mako. And it's the same figure, kind of a same figure. It's very similar figure. So yeah, there's a broken one there too with his sidekick. Yeah. Does that mean Skippy is a Wesley figure? Probably is, actually. Think about it. But yes, so it is connected to Canary Space indirectly. It's like an alternate universe. It's a Elseworld saga. Space-time core is Elseworld saga. And that's the way they could do another Star Trek movie. I realize that now they have officially said, at least on a document in CBR and Variety, they're not going to do any more Abrams movies. But it's been 9 years. They weren't going to do any more Abrams movies anyway. And they shouldn't do an origin story. What they should do is one of my stories. They should adapt. I'm just saying that because they should just do a story where they're not going to spend too much money, because the most successful Star Trek movies were usually Nick Meyer involved in part 2. But don't do Wrath of Khan because it's Wrath of Khan. You've done that 7 times. There's at least 5 movies were about a Wrath of Khan type villain. Don't do a villain. Do the other version of Star Trek. The other movies were about some kind of event was going on that affected the crew directly, not the universe. That's dumb. They have to go to explore a strange new world, go into a planet and find an ecological disaster to stop it. It's kind of what this story is. But yeah, I write it. I write the next movie. I'll do the next movie. Won't be an origin story. It'll be an Elseworld story where it's another crew, another starship, and they're just going on an adventure where they have to go to a planet and solve a mystery and a problem on the planet. And there's no official like supervillain who wants to destroy anything. It's just that if there is a villain, they just think they're right and they're wrong, and they have to go down there and be taught. That's all. There's your movie, and you can have it in a set. You can have it. You can use existing stuff. You can have a lot of. You can use forested areas and quarries and stuff like that, and that rock place from the Corn episode if you want. But yeah, you can use national parks or whatever. And film it cheap on the cheap, but make it an exciting planet story where they go to a planet and something happens, and that's your Star Trek adventure. That's kind of what half of First Contact was. They filmed it in the woods, like half of it. So they had the woods and they filmed there. First Contact. The other half was aboard Queen and Wrath of Khan type of thing, but yeah, don't do Wrath of Khan anymore. Have a story in yeah, do an exciting romping adventure through our young crew and some old crew going on an adventure on a planet. There you go. There's your hook. Make it fun and exciting, but not Star Wars. It's Star Trek. You're not about space battle, pew pew pew. It's about doing a adventure where they discover something cool, and then they have to solve something, and then they have to go back to the ship, go home. Yeah, that Elseworld Star Trek story. Yeah. To crib from DC a little bit there. But yeah, do that. Yeah. So you're watching part 2 of. They won't do that, but you're watching part 2. They'll screw it up. They'll inevitably screw it up. Do that space adventure story. Make it a live action Lower Decks movie. Set in the 2380s. Lower Decks movie. Do that. That'd be cool. Lower Decks meets Prodigy the movie. But just have it set up so they're Elseworld, so that they actors from those 2 shows happen to be on the planet together. There you go. There's your selling point. There's your movie. So yeah, we're looking at part 2 of this other one. Thinking like, oh, we should probably just do 1 more, not 4, because there probably isn't enough material for 4 in the short stories. The next 3 short stories are shorter, so they're probably not going to be that long. You're going to end up having to stick the other one on the end. Yeah, and it's not this one is not an Alexander Rozhenko episode. It was a Mako episode. The other one is Mako beats with his end in the space story kind of thing. fighting one of his own guys. This is kind of odd. But yeah, the entire premise of the train chase stuff was all taken out. So the bad guys, con kind of thing. That was all taken out because, executive decision to Under Siege 2 ripped it off. When the story was being written. And we're, damn it. Now we can't do this. They're going to think I ripped off Under Siege 2. So yeah, that story ended up being changed so that he didn't actually taunt him on a train. And several other train movies have done that too. Including... But no, I wasn't thinking of those movies. I was thinking of... Earlier, it was the 90s when I wrote the stories. It'd be like if I did a version of the horror series The Mall Massacre. By the time we got around to doing a movie version, there'd be a mall massacre. And it'd be like, oh no, they're capitalizing on the real thing that happened. It's like, no, I've never done it. I'm not going to do that story. How would I do that? Action figures get all brutalized? How would I film that? I can't film that. It's not going to work. But so this is, these are the fan films. This is this one, and then wrap the whole thing up, wrap the story arc up, have this meet the other one, because after that, so the fourth story will actually be the finale of Legacy, and if there's others and later on that'll be, but this third one is going to be, the third one is going to be the remainder of book 1 and a little bit of book 2 from that one. I think I know which ones can stay and which ones can go. We'll see. But anyway, so there it is.